free.com this morning, and another beautiful, gorgeous day in Michigan. Fall is coming a little early though I guess the temperature is supposed to go up, but I have a lot of beautiful color in our maple trees around the house. We're continuing my series today because it's National Suicide Prevention Week, and I want to be a part of solution. And so I'm continuing this series in honoring someone. Today I'm honoring Madison Holleran. Madison was quite a media splash, which is sometimes difficult, especially for family members when that happens. But certainly it brought to light a couple of things. And Kate Fagan, the ESPN commentator, has written a book about Madison. And also things like social media and the game face. They call it, she went to University of Pennsylvania, the Penn face, an Ivy League school. This idea that you have your game face and you don't really show your real feelings, so everybody thinks your life is fantastic. Isn't that what social media does? So on social media we're seeing, everybody posts just wonderful things, and it causes some anxiety and depression in others when they feel like their lives, when they do play the comparison game. We're always comparing ourselves to what we see and what we see around us, and that's just upped with social media. And so I want to really share the resource of the Be Nice campaign that the West Michigan Mental Health Foundation does here in the west side of the state of Michigan in our schools. And I am going to be at an event of theirs at the Public Library in Grand Rapids next Tuesday night. I think their campaign is really wonderful and it's very helpful. So I've posted a link at the top of this broadcast to the first video on what NICE means. So that Be Nice, N-I-C-E, stands for notice. And I love how they start out the video by sharing that the first thing that you need to notice is what goes well with someone. What is typically well. We don't really notice each other so much. This is a very stress-based society. So as parents, siblings, you may not even be noticing what is normal in your child, and so then you're not noticing when things aren't normal. And because stress-based behavior has become the new normal, it's very difficult for us to even notice. Hi Laurel Amira, thank you so much for joining this morning. So what are we noticing? How people think, act, and feel is what this video shares with you if you click on it. So think, act, and feel. How are people normally thinking, acting, and feeling? And then when do you see a change happen? And their thought is, if a change lasts for up to 2 weeks, but boy, if you see a change, I would definitely, start thinking about what might be going on with that person that you care about. For me, when it happened to my sophomore year, the change was like instant. I just one day everything was fine, and the next day, oh my gosh, I felt such overwhelm. I felt so inadequate, and I can't even really pinpoint why. I can't pinpoint why, and I think that's what is a problem sometimes with uber achievers in particular. Hi Dale, thank you for joining. So when we're noticing the behavior, how someone thinks, how are they acting normally, and then when do you see a shift? And the shifts can occur in all sorts of ways. Someone starts overeating or undereating. Someone starts to really have issues with not wanting to do their normal activities. They sleep a lot, or they can't get a lot of sleep. When you watch that Be Nice video and the end for notice, so many of the behaviors that they're sharing are the result of triggering the fight or flight stress hormones, which is why learning how to deal and control your stress hormones is just so incredible, what it can do for you. So I really encourage you to come on my webinar tomorrow night and take a look at that, and also take some time to start to notice. Notice the people around you. Notice when you see a shift in their behavior or a change. Your noticing could be so life-saving. You could get people the resources and the help that they need. And sometimes it's just a fluke. In our own family, I watch things, and And the other thing is that, you know, sometimes it's difficult to get people the help they need. Sometimes people will come to me because I'm a coach, and then I can get them deeper help that they need. But they feel okay coming to a coach, especially student athletes, student academicians. There is this kind of stigma about mental health, and that's what the West Michigan Mental Health Foundation and countless other organizations around the country are trying to change. It's amazing that how many students age 14 and younger, mental illness starts very young, and it's habits of reaction. We're creating these habits of reaction. Also brain chemistry. So there are a lot of factors that go into how we think, act, and feel. So it's change that you want to look for, and I just think it's so incredible when there can be this little bit of hope for someone, and you could be that person that provides that little bit of hope for someone. And sometimes with our very best efforts, it doesn't happen. So it's really easy to feel shame and guilt when you didn't help someone as much as you thought you maybe could. But a person also has to accept the help. So it's difficult. I know, because I've helped people, and sometimes they accept help and other times they don't. And it's you know, it's really interesting how that all goes down. But Madison Holleran, she was a D1 athlete at Penn. She ran track and field and cross country. And on the outside, everything looked like it was great. And she had on what they call the Penn face. By the way, this is not unusual, really, I mean, in any situation or any school. And what I talk about so much is that what may seem like a non-issue to you can be enormously stressful to someone else. Stress is very individual. And so it may seem like this person has everything going for them. Everything's going great, great grades, blah, blah, blah. But inside, you don't really know. Some of my clients seem so calm on the outside, but inside, when we get down to it, it's like a 24/7 burn. They're releasing stress hormones constantly, and it's affecting their well-being, their mental health, and their physical health. And so it can be really subtle sometimes, and it can be more overt. I like to work with my clients on gaining what I call congruency. Is the outside matching the inside? Is there congruency here? You know, when our two things, when our outside and our inside aren't matching, then we really are, it's probably because we're triggering stress hormones. And so inside we're roiling, but we're putting on our game face. You know, it's really interesting how we will do that. And then the other is when our expectations don't match our current conditions and our choices. That's when we start to go into the blaming, shaming behaviors that I've talked about so much on my videos. We start to blame and shame, and we will shame, you know, a person who's like an overachiever will blame themselves so much. They will have so much shame that they expected this and they fell short. So it's falling short in small ways that can really cause a person to start to trigger so much stress that they're in a constant state of anxiety. And I've shared this many times, but I think it's so important if you're new to my show. It's garbage day, sorry. Oh, Eliza, thank you so much for joining this morning. By the way, if you're on live, feel free to give me hearts and likes, and feel free to share this out. There's going to be a lot of resources on this particular one. Feel free to share it out. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for coming on and sharing and watching the show. And please share it out. Feel free to share it privately. When you click the share button, you have choices. It doesn't just automatically go to your feed. So you can choose how you want to share it with people. And Facebook loves likes and hearts, so go ahead and give me some likes and hearts, especially if I say something that touches you. If you have any questions too, feel free to private message me or put them down below. So we're talking about noticing, and we're talking about, I want to share with you about anxiety, because anxiety is kind of the first clue that something's going on with someone. Anxiety leads to deeper depression, which then can lead to suicidal thoughts. So it starts first with anxiety. So because we live in such a stress-based society today, it's so far more stress-based than it was 20, 30 years ago, especially with the social media. Now we've amped the stress up because we're playing the comparisitis game. So if you see anxiety, if you feel anxiety, And there's signs of it. So one of the signs is, I say, look at your face. Like if you have furrows in your brow here, if you have dry mouth, if your throat kind of tightens, if you feel your heart racing, if your gut feels weird, all of those are symptoms of anxiety, that you've released too much of these stress hormones. And so you can, what's really kind of insidious is when we release the fight or flight stress response. The first flood goes out, that's mainly adrenaline, but it is a cocktail. The second flood that goes out when your body decides, okay, there really isn't a threat and we need to fix all these cells that we've compromised. The second flood that goes out are going to be your glucocorticoids. When cortisol hits the brain, it causes you to feel anxious. That's so important to know, because you may feel nervous, worried, or anxious for no reason, and you're confused. And then you just continue, because you feel anxious, then you'll trigger the adrenaline again. And then it's just like this downward spiral. So many people are living in a constant flood of stress hormones, because for a male, if you're a male watching this, it takes your body up to 9 hours to dissipate those hormones out of the cells and you get back to normal. For a female, it's up to 24 hours. One of the things that I'm going to do a blog post on this for sure, but I talk about the brain trust. Every time we trigger fight or flight, we kill millions of brain cells. One neurobiologist says it's like you line them all up on the edge of a cliff, and this change of blood pressure going along with the fact you've weakened all of these cells when you go into fight or flight in your cortex, that it's like putting them on the edge of the cliff and then they all fall over. That's huge. And so when you hear about dementia and Alzheimer's and plaques building, those are those dead cells. So triggering fight or flight affects your brain so seriously. Plus, when you've triggered the first flood, the adrenaline, you're in a phase of survival mode, so you're not thinking clearly. It's very difficult for people to get a handle on reality and think logically when they're in fight or flight. So if you know of a student or an adult who is constantly a little bit anxious, they're constantly releasing these hormones and their cortex is shut down somewhat. So the thoughts that they have are not their friends. Do you talk to yourself in nasty ways sometimes? Do you talk smack to yourself? Oh my gosh, my brain will say, oh, how could you have done that? I can't believe you did that. I mean, it will talk at me, telling me when I've gone into fight or flight. It will even say, you'll never get out of this. Nasty, hypercritical talk. And I know I've worked with so many high-achieving students and high-achieving student athletes and high-achieving professionals, and it seems like the critical voice is even stronger. It's even stronger. And so I know that these students we have lost to suicide, the voice is just so strong, and it's telling them that they're not good enough. It even says things like, and this is what my voice has said to me, maybe the world is better off without me. Maybe I just can't cut it. Maybe I'm just not good enough to do this. And here they are in one of the most high-achieving, institutions, learning amazing things. But the pressure that they're putting on themselves is just so great. And in fight or flight, that nasty voice will talk. So the voices in your head, I help my clients understand the voices in their heads. Some of those voices are not our friends. So if you notice a change in someone, chances are there are voices in their head that are not talking nicely. Be nice. That's the name of the West Michigan Foundation, Mental Health Foundation's campaign. Be nice. And I think it's a wonderful thought. Nice. What does that mean? So we're talking about notice again today. Did that yesterday too, if you want to go back and see yesterday's broadcast. But what are we noticing? We're noticing a change in behavior. A change in how people think, act, or feel. If you start to see something changing in someone, I've seen students give up certain activities, give up a sport or a musical instrument. They just give up, and it's rather abrupt. And they've been thinking about it for a while, but mostly it's because they're feeling that they're just not good enough. And then if they're starting to do some other behaviors on top of that, those are some clear signs that the trajectory is going down. So I look at trajectory, and I look at incremental gains, So it's an incremental change in the negative direction that you need to be on the lookout for. And if you see it, you can step in and be helpful. So I'm going to continue this series, and we're going to go through the NICE acronym. So tomorrow I'll talk about I, and I'll share that link too, so that you can keep learning about this too. I'm learning all the time as I become more involved with foundations and with people. And I am part of solution. Pressure Free is a solution for everyone. Everyone can benefit. And if you are a parent and you learn Pressure Free, you'll be able to teach it to your children. If you're a teacher, if you're anything that you do, whatever you do in your life, if you learn this method with me, oh my goodness, it will change every aspect of what happens in your life. Thank you for the heart, Heather Ann. You know, it's so clear to me that we have a responsibility to have our mental health intact. And if you are releasing stress hormones, you are not mentally well. I totally admit that when I trigger the fight or flight stress response now, and I've gone like days and days, even months, like 90 days without triggering at all. And when I do, I am not nice. I'm pretty insane, to be honest. And it's only because I can now look at myself and see it all unfold from the moment it triggers. From the moment fight or flight triggers in me, I watch the downward spiral. I watch the negative thoughts. I watch myself not type nice to myself or my children or my husband. I watch myself be not pressure free. Hi, Laura. Thank you for joining. So I think it's really incredibly important to share this out. My method is really simple. It takes time to learn it. I'm 7 years in and I'm still finding triggers. I'm finding things that will definitely release stress hormones in me. I'm also really protecting myself from secondhand stress from when I work with clients and I'm helping them, because I think about my clients all the time. And now I've really upped my game with my clients. I'm in daily communication with my current one-on-one clients, and really helping them in the trenches, because that's where the real work happens. You know, I'd love to be able to just move in with people and help them, but that's not really practical. Someday I hope to actually have a retreat center and everybody can come, and that day may happen sooner than later, and we can really do some hard, wonderful work together. But just getting the basics of using my method can make a change right away. Some of my clients within the first week or two, I had a young woman, she's 14, in chronic anxiety, and in a week and a half she got it. She got the science lesson of Pressure Free, and she freed herself. It was so incredible to watch her progress happen so quickly, but she had a really strong reason why she wanted to change. And that's really the first part of Pressure Free. So I'm doing a free webinar tomorrow night. I'm going to share the Pressure Free method and the secret to it right in that webinar. So please share this out to anyone that you feel could benefit. It's at no cost and there's no obligation. So I'm doing that tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And I'm also sharing this Be Nice, what it means to notice video. I got a lot of information out of it, so I hope it's helpful to you too. We can all be friends to each other and help each other. So I hope you've had gotten some value from this video today. If you've liked it, feel free to put a comment down below. Share with me what you gleaned from it, what you learned. Like, heart, share, and let's spread Pressure Free all over this world. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow morning.